A few generations ago, there were several amazing action-adventure games. When people think PlayStation 2, it is usually Kingdom Hearts and maybe something like Jak or Ratchet. These are experiences people long for, hence the desire for new entries or simply breathing new life into the original. So, when I saw Duskfade, I was cautiously optimistic. Being clearly inspired by those experiences, it looked to scratch that itch so many people had. But the big question is, can it satisfy those looking for a modern take on those experiences? Duskfade starts by showing a normal day that ends with the world being distorted. Confused at what happened, Zirian wants to find his sister. He quickly realizes she is locked in the tower. Unsure what to do, he follows the chains in hopes of breaking the mechanism and ultimately freeing her. While this is the general premise, Duskfade largely focuses on the relationship with his sister and grandfather. Most of these scenes are handled well, though the overall package is pretty forgettable. Partially due to the overall plot being rather generic, and most of the flashbacks are more about emotional impact than experience. Most cutscenes show characters interacting with one another over a specific event. It's so bad, I don't think I could tell an early scene from a late one without reading dialogue. While this is underwhelming, it doesn't make up the bulk of the experience. Most of that comes down to interactions with your sidekick, Cuckoo. This is honestly where Duskfade feels the most like Jak or Ratchet. Even though those two are clearly friends, their interactions have a fair amount of snark. It is the type of dynamic you'd see with closer friends. I also like that the story sometimes takes a detour for a fun joke that showcases their personality. Like, at one part you need to find a book in a library, fairly standard stuff, but at one point Zirian locates a book about fart jokes. He gleefully takes it, only for Cuckoo to softly admit they kinda wanna read it too. Sure, it's kind of silly, but it really captures that exact vibe I associate with these games. Though, a big part of those is gameplay, something that is a bit of a mixed bag here. Duskfade is a pretty standard action-adventure game. There's an attack, jump, dodge, and a special attack. Over time he gains a heavy attack, additional special attacks, plus a few abilities to transverse forward. All of these are important for fights, though they come in various forms of frustrating, mostly due to balance and a few unusual choices. The average fight is a decent number of enemies attacking at once. This makes it hard to avoid taking damage since there's so many things to keep track of. In addition to that, ranged enemies are frustrating. Unlike most games, where the enemy commonly attacks your current position, it's common for them to attack where you'll likely be. I'll give them credit for making it harder, but it doesn't last long. Shortly after encountering these enemies, it's revealed their attacks can be reflected. So, you don't need to move, just swinging in their general direction is enough to win most fights. Though, again, due to the number of enemies and things going on, you'll likely take some amount of damage. Duskfade acknowledges this shortcoming by adding an ample amount of heals. Additional potions can be found after most encounters, meaning you are free to be a bit careless. This, coupled with floaty controls, makes for a frustrating experience, one that bosses and certain jumping puzzles take to another level. Simply put, bosses are incredibly frustrating due to three distinctly different reasons. First off, controls suck. It's a floating game that isn't designed to be as fast as it wants to be. Take Beasts of Reincarnation. Negatives aside, combat was good because it almost always worked as expected. Here, there are so many things to avoid, on top of getting in attacks, that it is often better to just play aggressively. In most cases, combat won't be your undoing, it's the side mechanics. Like most bosses in this genre, there are several side puzzles to complete. Where they fall behind is direction. Take the first boss. If you don't recognize the room is going to fill with lava, you're going to take damage. Based off positioning, that could be all it takes to lose. You'll just keep flopping around, unable to gain the momentum needed to salvage this run. From there, it isn't always clear what needs to be done. Going back to the first boss, the trick is to reach the top and swing on all the sections above. However, it takes a moment for these to appear, meaning it's entirely possible to get confused for a moment, make a mistake, and, well, lose. Admittedly, the first boss isn't the worst example of this. You make either mistake once and it likely won't happen twice. Later bosses have Enrage Timer. Nothing feels better than taking a moment to figure out this esoteric jumping puzzle and slowly losing health for taking that extra moment. Healing items are especially bad in these sections, as there's something of a catch-22. great to have, but they are a detour that makes it harder to complete the puzzle in a given time. Mind you, for some, I don't even know if it's possible to get the heal without triggering the timer. It either requires insane precision or it's a built-in trade-off. A lot of this is stuff I consider malicious design, which the transversal sections are filled with. Before getting into what Duskfade does, it's important to clarify what malicious design means. Generally speaking, it is common for difficult games to have a two-step process, as in, they design a puzzle, and then when looking at common behaviors, design something to punish it. Spelunker HD has countless great examples of this, with my favorite being the unexpected spike trap. Basically, you'd reach a jump, expect some kind of obstacle on the other side, and then lose because you were standing on the trap. It can be fun, though here it just doesn't land, and it comes down to a couple simple reasons. First and foremost, I'm not under the impression this is designed to be a challenging game. Instead, it reminds me a lot of similar games growing up, where nothing was really hard, it just made a lot of choices that made the experience miserable. Like, due to controls, you'll just barely land on a platform, only to find out it's an electric trap. This gives you a couple seconds to find the next objective or take damage. Then you'll commonly take damage, notice the next spot, fail to make the jump, take even more damage, then need to repeat. Not exactly the most enjoyable loop. And this game is just filled with these moments. Some even take it to another level by adding, let's be honest, unnecessary additional obstacles. The two-platform cave section is a perfect example of this. There are, well, two platforms that rotate around. The platform is only flat at certain positions, along with there being a brief window to jump onto it. What you might not notice when messing with it is the platforms are at different heights, meaning half the time it's not even possible to jump onto said platform. It is only once you realize this, get the timing right, and understand you have seconds to jump onto the other side can you progress. Not hard in the grand scheme of things, but it is tedious. Tedious in a way I just groan and complain over a fun acknowledgement they got me. Going back to Spelunker, I laughed at the failure because I knew I got played. It was a great subversion, easy to correct on later attempts, and above all, difficulty is part of that design space. Here, it just feels like someone thought it would be too easy without a bunch of additional obstacles. It's still easy, just with a hint of frustration. While this touches on a lot of the bad sides, I want to be clear, it's not always a miserable experience. One thing I like about Duskfade is how it encourages using multiple abilities. Puzzles, even those you revisit, often require several moves to complete. It isn't enough to use a heavy attack and reach the next location. They will often require an additional jump, maybe a roll for some range, plus a bit of gliding. These small skill tests are what I consider essential to optional collectibles, where they're not a slightly obscured thing to the side, but rather a skill check to prove you're worthy of certain benefits. Naturally, some are easy, and others become easy with later abilities. That's just the nature of the game. I just appreciate when there's more to an optional area than simply going the other direction. Some also involve well-hidden steps that will keep you engaged. Best of all, a lot of these optional paths are truly optional in the best way. The most notable are cats you need to chase. Upon catching one, it will unlock different costumes. Seriously, it's such a small thing, but I love when games include free costumes. It's becoming less common in the days of DLC, so huge props for including them. They also look a decent bit different. Two other collectibles unlock different colors, one for weapons and another for the aforementioned costumes. These are the exact type of optional things people want to chase. Not only do they feel more rewarding, they're far more desirable. Other unlockables include cards, a hidden message, cash, and upgrades. Of the remaining items, upgrades and cash are oddly annoying. For whatever reason, cash caps at 9,999, a sum you can easily hit through natural progression, and is not enough to buy every item in the game. As a result, it feels like a weird limit, especially since upgrades are not gatecapped by cost, but rather an upgrade item. Meaning, you'll likely hit the cap, making all cash worthless from that point forward, unless you're hunting for every upgrade. I think it also requires some backtracking, though it really doesn't matter. This isn't the best, but at least none of the upgrades feel essential.
Let's do this!
Okay, this section is going to be somewhat weird. Typically, I review things on PlayStation 5. It creates a standardized experience, with the only alternative being those who own a Pro. With Duskfade, I covered it on PC. In my case, it was hit and miss, something I reached out about so I could accurately convey performance details. According to my contact, there is an issue related to a recent AMD driver update. I was not told any specifics, nor did they confirm a fit state. Given I was told it's fully playable via Steam Deck, it just currently isn't verified, I imagine a sizable amount of issues I experienced were related to this. Anyway, what happened is certain attacks caused my game to momentarily freeze. It didn't make anything unplayable. No, that's debatable. But, well, the gameplay I'm showcasing here shows the problem. I don't know if some of the other quirks stem from that, but if you're not on a more powerful machine, I'd hold off until that update. Before getting to the conclusion, I want to briefly touch on design. For all Duskfade's faults, I would not say design was one of them. Locations are varied and largely look great. Levels also incorporate the clock theme well. Perhaps one of my favorite choices was the wide color range they went with. This is not a drab or boring looking game. It is a vibrant and expressive world that stands out, to the point where I'd remember levels and bosses long before the dialogue. Duskfade is a weird case of its value coming down to what you want in a game. If you want an extremely polished action-adventure game that has some of the charm of the past, you'll likely be disappointed. It has the charm, just lacks the polish. That said, it reminds me a lot of games I played growing up and getting frustrated with. It so perfectly captures my feelings that I could see some people finding it endearing. Kind of like how people will revisit games that didn't age well due to what they felt playing it. Nostalgia might not be a factor, yet what it specifically offers without question is. So, for these reasons, I think it's going to appeal to that specific group. For everyone else, I'd say to keep an eye on the updates. It will never be a perfect game, but most of the issues I had are easily corrected with an update. One where a little time here, slight change there, and I could be the start of a charming series. Hey, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to leave a like, and for more content, please subscribe.